Some of the largest questions in life relate to how we perceive ourselves and our place in the world. Who am I? What is meaning? What does it mean to have a meaningful life? Who am I in relation to that meaningful work or meaningful goal? These are questions that most people are going to find themselves asking themselves at some point throughout their life. And today I want to talk about one of the core and original theories in psychology that is related to discovering who we are and where we fit into our life. And this is going to be James Marcia's stages of identity development. This theory is one of the most important ones and also one of the most simple ones that you can learn if you really want to have a basic understanding of where you are in your journey of life and where you could be going. So, with that, let's get into it. James Marcia is a developmental and clinical psychologist who, at the time of recording this video, is actually still alive. He's in his late 80s. He's been a prominent psychologist in the world of developmental psychology and has taught and produced a few theories related to development. But most importantly is, of course, his theory of identity development, which comes in 4 stages. Now, this is one of the core theories that you learn as a psychology student, again, because it's relatively simple compared to some of the more complex theories, but it has a lot of ground in that it's very easy to see why it works and how these stages relate to where you might be in life. So the core theory functions on the premise that there are two kind of axes related to identity development, which are going to be commitment and exploration. And you can be low or high in commitment as well as low or high in exploration. And this is going to create 4 distinct stages of identity. So let's start with the low stages first. The low stages are going to be low commitment and low exploration. This is going to be identity diffusion. Now, identity diffusion is when you don't know who you are or what you want to be doing, but you also haven't even really begun to think about it. You haven't begun to explore. You're just kind of that person who's sitting at home, living out their days. Maybe you're just playing video games all day. Maybe you don't really even have an idea. Maybe you go to work and you have a job and it pays well, but you don't feel any meaningful connection to that work or job. This is the type of person who's just kind of found themselves drifting through life. They don't really have any feeling or attachment to the life they have at that moment or the person that they are. The next stage is going to be low exploration with high commitment. And this is going to be known as the stage of foreclosure. So somebody with identity foreclosure is someone who's made a strong decision about who they are and what their identity is, but they haven't spent much time thinking about why they should be doing this or who they are in relation to these things. This is the type of person who usually grows up feeling strongly about their life path really early on in life, or maybe even they have a family member or society that's pushing a life path onto them. Say, for example, you have someone who grows up in a religious community and they decide from a very young age that they're going to be a priest. They haven't explored beyond the boundaries of their community or society, and they think this is really the only option for them. It's not that they aren't attached to this identity, it's not that they aren't attached to this life path, it's just that this is the only option that they think they have, so therefore they've put a lot of time, energy, and effort into this life path. This type of identity stage is one that can be meaningful to the individual. It's just that there's usually an identity crisis somewhere later in life when they are exposed to other life paths, or maybe they have some sort of crisis in their mid to late life where they realize that maybe there's something more out there, or they have missed opportunities that they wish they could have pursued. The third stage is going to be low commitment with high exploration, and this is going to be identity moratorium. This is the stage where most people who don't know what they want to be doing with their lives will find themselves. Specifically, people from the age of like 16 to maybe 30 are most likely to be in this stage if they haven't really stopped to think about what they want to be doing. Because at this age, you still feel like you have the opportunity to become someone. You still feel like you can change your life or you can decide who you are. And people spend a lot of time in this age range really thinking about who they are. Now, of course, this is still going to be possible with people older than 30 or even people late into their life. They can find themselves in an identity moratorium. But you're most likely to find people in this stage in their younger years up into the age of about 30. So people who are in this stage are really just curious. They're going to be testing out a lot of things. They're not going to feel like they need to commit highly to one thing. Maybe they're going to go take a wide range of classes at a community college. Maybe they're going to go to a bunch of different events with friends or family members to see if anything sparks their interest. I think this is actually the healthiest stage you can be outside of the very last one, because in this stage, you're still going to be open to trying new things. You're going to be open to trying out things that you might not have even thought you would have liked. And maybe, that's where you find the thing that is really meaningful to you, or the thing that's going to derive passion in your life. This was the stage that I was at when I discovered psychology, where I was really testing out a lot of things and just trying out, oh, do I want to do this? Do I want to do this? For me, there was a time where I thought that I wanted to be a hotel manager because I have a family member who works in hotel management. There was a time where I thought I wanted to be a manager in retail because I worked at a retail store for 6 years, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just climb the ladder and work in retail. Again, this is the stage where you're trying out things and you're open to the possibility of doing things that may not be immediately interesting to you. But this is also the stage where you're most likely to find yourself moving towards the fourth stage. If you already have high commitment but low exploration, you're very unlikely to go from identity foreclosure to the last stage, which is identity achievement. Identity achievement is when you have explored a lot of options related to the things that are interesting or meaningful to you, but now you've decided to commit to one or a few of them. Remember that identity isn't the same thing as deciding your career path in life. You can decide what your identity is and decide who you are, not in relation to what you're going to be doing for work. For example, maybe you want to be a volunteer, or maybe you want to be an artist, these sorts of things. All of these can be related to your identity. And there's also various stages of identity that are separate from one another. Maybe you have an identity that you feel committed to and that you have explored a lot within the realm of work, but maybe you don't know who you are outside of that. Maybe you don't know what is meaningful to you outside of your work life, so therefore you have to have kind of a separate identity journey outside of your work life. This is going to be one of the struggles that a lot of people face, especially those who have identity foreclosure, is they're going to feel a meaningful connection to their work life, but they're not going to feel a meaningful connection maybe outside of that, or maybe it's the other way around, where they feel a meaningful connection in their personal life, but not a meaningful one in their work life. People who have achieved identity achievement usually feel more of a complete and holistic achievement in relation to their identity. They're going to feel like they understand who they are, why they are on the path they're on, and maybe even that it's okay to change the path a little bit if it's going to lead them closer to who they actually are or what they want to really be doing. This type of person isn't afraid to take a small risk if it means they're going to be able to follow a path that is going to be more meaningful to them because they have a strong idea of what meaning is to them and what is meaningful in life. This is all really important for self discovery and understanding because without much thought, you should be able to look at this system, look at this theory, and think, okay, where am I in this? Do I feel like I've explored a lot of opportunities? Am I just sitting at home doing nothing, not even really thinking about what I want to be doing? Do I feel like I know who I am? Or maybe has someone made a decision for me that I feel like now I'm trapped in? Or maybe that I want to be doing something else because I've been doing this thing just because it's what I blindly thought I should be doing. As a practitioner and a coach myself, this is one of the first things that I'll kind of look for when I'm working with a coaching client is what stage are they in their life in relation to their identity? Is this goal that they've told me that they want to achieve actually a goal that they want, or is it something that they think they should be doing or that someone else has told them that they should be doing? Or am I working with someone who just has no idea what they want to be doing? At that stage, my goal is to help them go from the basic stage of identity diffusion to just moratorium. And then maybe from there, we can work them up to achievement in the long term. Identity development is not something that you want to rush. You don't want to try and go from diffusion to achievement in like a week because that defeats the purpose of trying to explore things. You really want to take your time and actually think about what is meaningful to you. Try out different things, try out different life paths, and see what is going to stand out to you and what's going to actually make you feel like you are able to be the person that you think you are or want to be on the inside. One thing that's important to remember when approaching this theory or using this theory is that someone can shift between stages either up or down in either direction, really, even from identity achievement. Someone who has achieved identity achievement may go through some sort of midlife crisis or identity crisis where the identity that they felt really attached to is no longer meaningful to them. And this can be something that causes a huge and major shift in someone's values and the person that they think themselves to be or the person that they want to be. During these types of situations, you're going to see usually a lot of stress, usually a lot of abandonment of old lifestyle habits, maybe even people that they used to know. There's usually going to be just a lot of struggle with someone who has devolved from identity achievement, maybe back down to diffusion, moratorium. Not really foreclosure, because usually people don't find themselves going from high commitment to high commitment. Another important thing to remember, and I mentioned this briefly earlier, is the idea that you can have identity stages for different aspects of your identity. So, for example, while you may find yourself having achieved your identity, say, for example, in work and home life, maybe you don't have an identity related to your political life. Maybe you don't have an identity strongly decided related to your sexual life. Maybe you don't have an identity strongly linked to your religious life. And these are going to be things that are able to grow and change throughout your lifespan. And you're going to have separate and individual identity journeys for each of these roles and each of these identities as you progress through life. And this doesn't mean that your ultimate goal needs to be to get to identity achievement for every single one of these things. Say, for example, if you're not really a religious person, it doesn't really make much sense that you want to be spending a ton of time trying to develop your religious identity when you really could just be saying, okay, well, I'm just not a very religious person. But in and of that self, that's kind of an identity achievement, or at the very least, foreclosure, in that you've decided that this is kind of the relation you have to the identity within the realm of religion. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about your identity and where you are in life, is that just because you are decided or undecided in one area doesn't mean that you have to be decided or undecided in another. You can be someone who has a strong sense of concept, self, morals, values without having a strong sense of the identity in relation to work or meaningful progression in your life.